For most of her life, Lila Harrow loved her father the way children are taught to love distant things. Like old portraits, like locked rooms, like names spoken softly at dinner tables because everyone seems to know they matter, even if no one explains why. Her father was not cruel. That was what made everything harder. If he had shouted, slammed doors, broken promises with a smile, or come home smelling of whiskey and blame, Lila might have known what shape to give the ache inside her. She might have been able to point at him and say, "There, that is where it hurts." But Adrian Harrow did not shout. He did not drink. He did not forget her school fees or miss payments or leave her without anything she needed. Her closets were full. Her bedroom was larger than some apartments. Her private school tuition was paid before the invoices even reached the office. Drivers waited for her after class. Tutors arrived when her grades dipped. Birthdays came with velvet boxes, new devices, prepaid cards, and flowers so expensive they looked almost artificial. Her father provided everything. That was what people said. And every time they said it, Lila felt ashamed for wanting something else. Adrian Harrow was the managing director of Harrow and Vale Properties, a real estate development company whose name appeared on cranes, glass office towers, gated communities, and glossy advertisements in Sunday magazines. Adults said his name with respect, sometimes with envy, sometimes with the careful tone people used around money. To Lila, he was a sound before he was a person. The soft click of the front door near midnight, the murmur of his voice in the study, the low hum of a car leaving before sunrise, a pair of polished shoes beneath the breakfast table already angled toward the exit. When she was little, she used to run to him whenever she heard him come home. She remembered this only in fragments. Cold marble under her bare feet, the hem of her nightgown brushing her knees, the smell of rain on his coat. He would look startled every time, as if fatherhood were a meeting that had been added to his calendar without warning. Then he would bend down, not quite enough for an embrace, and touch the top of her head. "Still awake?" he would ask. She never knew how to answer. She was awake because he was home, but that sounded too needy, so she usually nodded. He would glance toward the staircase, toward the study, toward the glowing phone in his hand. "You should sleep," he would say. That was often the whole conversation. By the time she turned 10, she stopped running downstairs. By 12, she stopped listening for the door. By 14, she had learned to recognize his affection by the things he left behind. A new laptop after he missed parent-teacher night. A designer coat after he missed her winter recital. A savings account in her name after he forgot a school ceremony where she had received an award for literature. There was always a reason. There was always a meeting, a closing, an investor dinner, an emergency at a site, a council vote, a client flying in from Singapore, a lawsuit that needed settling before morning. There was always an envelope afterward. Her stepmother, Marissa, said this was simply the way powerful men loved. They build walls around everyone they care about. Marissa told her once, smoothing Lila's hair after Adrian had missed a family brunch. "Your father thinks safety is the same thing as affection." Lila had asked, "Is it?" Marissa smiled sadly. "Not for girls like us. Girls like us." That phrase had wrapped itself around Lila's heart and stayed there. Marissa had come into Lila's life when Lila was too young to remember a world without her. She was not the woman in the framed photograph kept in Adrian's locked cabinet. That woman was Clara, Lila's birth mother, who had died the day Lila was born. No one said it like that, not directly. They said complications. They said the hospital did everything it could. They said your mother loved you before she saw you. When Lila once asked her father what Clara's voice sounded like, he had gone very still. They were in the hallway outside his study. She was 8, holding a drawing she had made for a school project about family history. She had drawn Clara with yellow hair because the old photograph looked golden around the edges. Adrian stared at the drawing for a long moment. His face did not change, but his hand tightened around the file he was carrying. "She was kind," he said. "That's not a sound," Lila replied. He looked at her then, really looked, and something crossed his face so quickly she almost missed it. Pain maybe, or fear, or anger that had nowhere to go. "No," he said quietly. "I suppose it isn't." Then his phone rang. He answered it. Lila folded the drawing in half and never asked him again. Marissa, on the other hand, would talk about Clara if Lila wanted. Not too much, never enough to make Adrian uncomfortable. but enough to make Lila feel as if someone had left a candle burning in a room she was not allowed to enter. "Your mother would have loved your eyes," Marissa said once. Another time, "You laugh like her, I think." "Did you know her?" Lila asked. "Only through your father," Marissa answered, and kissed her forehead. But grief tells you a lot about a person. Lila did not understand what that meant, but she treasured it anyway. For 16 years, Marissa was the one who remembered the shape of Lila's days. She knew which uniform skirt scratched, which teacher made her anxious, which food she hated, which song she played when she was sad. She sat on the bathroom floor when Lila had food poisoning at 11. She taught her how to apply mascara at 13. She picked her up from a sleepover at 2 in the morning when the other girls started whispering about her dead mom and rich dad. Adrian had been in Dubai that night. Or maybe Hong Kong. Lila could not remember. Marissa had arrived in silk pajamas under a trench coat, hair pinned badly, face bare. She had not asked questions in the car. She simply drove with one hand on the wheel and the other resting palm up between them until Lila placed her fingers there. "No matter what anyone says," Marissa told her, "you are not an orphan." Lila cried then, silently, because it felt like being chosen. That was what Marissa was to her. The one who chose her. Adrian gave her a life. Marissa gave her somewhere to put her heart. So when Lila's 16th birthday approached, she told herself not to hope for too much. 16 was important. Everyone said so. Her friends talked about dresses, parties, first cars, trips, photos, boys, music. At school, girls became louder around their 16th birthdays, as if the number itself gave them permission to take up more space. Lila did not care about most of that. She already had things other girls wanted. Beautiful things. Expensive things. Things that made people say she was lucky before they knew anything about her. What she wanted was smaller and more impossible. She wanted her father at the table when she blew out the candles. Not a video message recorded in his office. Not a gift delivered by his assistant. Not a text that said, "Proud of you." Not a transfer into an account she never looked at. Him. Present. Breathing the same air. Looking at her as if he had nowhere better to be. For weeks, she kept the wish hidden even from herself. Then one evening, while Marissa sat at the vanity brushing her hair, Lila said it aloud. "I want Dad to come this year." The brush paused. In the mirror, Marissa's expression softened with such careful tenderness that Lila immediately regretted speaking. That look always made her feel both loved and pitied, as if she were a fragile thing pretending not to be cracked. "Of course you do," Marissa said. Lila looked down at her hands. "It's stupid." "No," Marissa turned on the bench. "It isn't stupid to want your father. He's busy. He is always busy." There was no sharpness in the words. That made them sink deeper. Lila swallowed. "I was thinking maybe if I asked him myself." Marissa studied her for a moment. Then she smiled, but it was a sad little smile, the kind that made Lila feel brave for surviving her own life. "You should," she said. "He needs to hear it from you." "What if he says no?" "Then at least you'll know you tried." The thought landed heavily. At least you'll know. Lila wondered what, exactly, she would know. That she had not asked properly? That she had waited too long? That he had never wanted to come? She pushed the thoughts away. The next evening, she stood outside Adrian's study for almost 7 minutes before knocking. His study was the only room in the house that never seemed fully part of the home. It smelled of leather, paper, and cold coffee. One wall held maps of developments marked with pins and neat handwriting. Another displayed awards. The desk was broad and dark, always covered in contracts stacked like small buildings. Adrian was on the phone when she entered. He looked up, surprised, and motioned for her to wait. Lila stood near the door, feeling suddenly younger than 16 in her school sweater and socks. "No, I want the revised zoning language before Monday," he said. "Not after. Before." His voice was low and controlled. People listened when he spoke that way. Lila had seen it at charity events, the rare ones where they appeared together as a family. Her father could quiet a room without raising his voice. With her, silence came too easily. He ended the call and removed his glasses. "Lila," he said, "is something wrong?" That was how he always began, as if she only came to him when something required fixing. "No," her fingers twisted around each other. "I just wanted to ask you something." His face shifted, not much, but enough that she noticed. He leaned back slightly, giving her his attention the way he gave it to documents. Seriously, completely, and with no idea how intimidating that felt. What is it? My birthday is next Friday. I know. She had not expected him to say that. Warmth rose in her chest, quick and dangerous. I mean, we're having dinner. Not huge. Just some friends. Marissa is planning it. He nodded. I wanted to ask if you could come. The room became so quiet that she could hear the faint buzz of the desk lamp. Adrian looked at her as though she had asked for something in a language he had once known but forgotten. You want me there? The warmth inside her flickered. It should not have hurt. Maybe he only meant to clarify. Maybe he was surprised because she had stopped asking years ago. But the words touched an old bruise. Yes, she said, softer now. I do. He was quiet long enough for her to wish she could disappear. Then he looked at the calendar on his desk. His jaw tightened. She recognized that expression. It meant schedules, conflicts, obligations, the invisible machinery of his life grinding behind his eyes. I have a closing that afternoon, he said. A complicated one. Oh, but I can arrange it. She looked up. I'll be there, he said. The words were simple, flat almost. But to Lila they opened something bright and aching. You promise? A strange look crossed his face. Yes, he said. I promise. She smiled before she could stop herself. For one absurd second, she thought he might stand and hug her. He seemed to think about it too. His hand moved slightly on the desk. Then his phone vibrated. He glanced at it. The moment folded shut. Good night, Lila, he said, not unkindly. Good night, Dad. She left the study feeling as if she were carrying a lit match through wind. Marissa was waiting at the top of the stairs. Well, she asked. Lila tried to keep her face calm, but happiness betrayed her. He said yes. Marissa pressed a hand to her chest. Oh, sweetheart. Lila laughed then, small and breathless, and Marissa pulled her into an embrace. For once, Lila let herself believe. The week before her birthday became different from other weeks. Colors seemed brighter. School felt bearable. Even the house felt less like a museum of expensive silence. Marissa threw herself into planning. She chose a twilight dinner in the garden because, she said, 16 should begin under lights. There would be long tables, candles in glass holders, pale flowers, music soft enough for conversation. Not too childish. Not too grown. Elegant, she promised. Something Lila would remember. Every so often, Lila would ask, Did you remind Dad? And every time, Marissa answered with patient warmth. Yes, darling. He knows. Once, when Lila confessed she was scared he might forget, Marissa cupped her cheek. Your father said he would come. We have to let him keep his promise. We. That word comforted Lila. She was not hoping alone. On the morning of her birthday, Adrian was gone before breakfast, but there was a small white box beside her plate. Inside was a pair of pearl earrings, simple and beautiful. The card read, For tonight. Dad. Not for your future. Not proud of you. Not the usual distant language of gifts. For tonight. She touched the words with her thumb. Marissa watched from across the table. He chose well, she said. You think he picked them himself? Marissa's smile was gentle. Does it matter? Lila looked down quickly. She did not want to say yes. The day passed slowly, then all at once. By late afternoon, the house was full of movement. Caterers walked through the kitchen. A florist carried buckets of pale roses. Someone tested speakers near the garden doors. The sky turned soft and gold. Marissa came into Lila's room while she was getting dressed. The dress was blue, not bright, but deep, almost the color of the evening before dark. Marissa zipped it up and adjusted the shoulders. You look beautiful, she said. Lila stared at herself in the mirror. The pearl earrings glowed at her ears. Do you think he'll like it? Marissa's hands rested briefly on her shoulders. If he sees you, how could he not? If. Lila felt the word but ignored it. The guests arrived at 6:30. Lila had thought dinner was at 7:30. At least, she thought that was what she had heard earlier in the week. When she mentioned it, Marissa blinked. Oh, sweetheart, we moved it up. Remember? Sunset is better for photographs, and your friend's parents wanted them home at a reasonable hour. Lila did not remember, but there had been so many details. Perhaps she had forgotten. Dad knows. Marissa squeezed her hand. I told him everything he needed to know. That should have been enough. For the first half hour, Lila floated. Her friends complimented her dress. Someone gave her a ridiculous crown that she refused to wear until everyone begged. There was laughter, music, candles trembling in the breeze. Marissa moved through the garden like a woman born to host beautiful things, smiling, touching arms, remembering names. Every few minutes, Lila looked toward the driveway. At 7, she told herself he was finishing the meeting. At 7:20, she told herself traffic was bad. At 7:40, she stopped eating. Marissa noticed immediately. She always did. "Are you all right?" Lila nodded. "He'll come," Marissa said quietly. The words were meant to soothe, but something in Lila's chest tightened. She did not want to need soothing. She wanted to hear a car door. At 8, the candles were brought out. 16 small flames. Everyone gathered around the cake. Her friends sang loudly and badly. Someone recorded on a phone. Lila smiled because she knew she was supposed to. Her eyes kept moving beyond the circle of faces, past the garden lights, toward the dark mouth of the driveway. No headlights. When the song ended, Marissa leaned close. "Do you want to wait a little longer?" "A place of your own when you're ready." So Lila smiled. Later, after the guests had gone and the garden looked abandoned under strings of light, Lila sat on the edge of her bed in the blue dress. Her feet hurt. Her eyes felt swollen. The pearl earrings were still in. Marissa touched her hair. "Not tonight," she whispered, though Lila was not sure whether it was meant for her or him. The shadow stayed another moment. Then something small was placed on the floor outside her door. Lila did not move until morning. When she opened the door, she found a second box. Inside was a watch, slim and silver, with her initials engraved on the back. No note. She put it in a drawer. At breakfast, Adrian was already gone. Marissa sat across from Lila, looking tired in a way Lila had never seen before. Not messy exactly. Marissa was never messy, but pale, delicate, as if she had been holding something heavy for too long. "I need to talk to you," she said. Lila's stomach turned. "About Dad. About us." That was how the separation began. Not with shouting. Not with broken glass. Not with accusations thrown across a room. At least, not where Lila could see. From her side of the house, everything sounded controlled. Doors closing softly. Voices kept low. The study occupied late into the night. Marissa emerging with red eyes, then smiling too quickly when she noticed Lila watching. Once, Lila came downstairs for water and heard Marissa speaking in the hall. "She looked at that door all night, Adrian." Lila stopped before the last step. "You don't understand what that does to a child." There was a pause. Then her father's voice, rougher than usual. "I was trying to secure something for her. Her future." Marissa's laugh was quiet and wounded. "What about her childhood?" Lila gripped the banister. "I have given her everything," Adrian said. "No," Marissa replied. "You have bought her everything." Silence. Then, more softly, Marissa added, "I am not saying you don't love her. I am saying she cannot feel it. And if a child cannot feel love, what difference does it make?" Lila went back upstairs without the water. A few days later, Marissa told her they would be staying at the lake house for a while. "Just until things calm down," she said. "Is Dad coming?" Marissa's face changed. "Only slightly." "No, darling." The lake house was smaller than the main house, but still beautiful, with tall windows and pale floors and rooms that echoed when they were empty. Marissa said it would be good for Lila. Quiet, peaceful, away from the heaviness. For the first week, it almost was. Marissa slept in the room beside hers. They ate dinner together on the sofa. They watched old movies. Lila did not go to school for 3 days, and Marissa wrote emails saying she needed rest. When Adrian called, Marissa never forced her to answer. "You decide when you're ready," she said. Lila was grateful. The first time Adrian came to the lake house, Lila saw him from the upstairs window. He stood on the gravel drive in a dark coat, speaking to Marissa near the front steps. He looked older than he had a week before. Marissa's posture was calm but firm. Lila could not hear every word, only fragments. "Needs time. Not about punishing you." Her emotional safety. Adrian looked up once. Lila stepped back from the curtain before he could see her. She waited for herself to feel guilty. Instead, she felt hurt all over again. If he could come now, why not then? If he could stand in the cold outside the lake house, why could he not stand beside her birthday cake? The divorce papers came later. No one used the word at first. Marissa called it making decisions. Then legal arrangements. Then protecting stability. By winter, adults stopped pretending. Lila learned about divorce in overheard phone calls and careful explanations. Marissa told her she had tried. She told her marriage was complicated. She told her loving someone did not mean allowing them to hurt a child again and again. "I'm not doing this because I hate your father," she said one evening, kneeling in front of Lila's chair. "I'm doing it because someone has to choose you." Lila believed her because she needed to. The legal process moved like weather behind closed windows. Lawyers came and went. Documents appeared on tables. Adrian's name floated through conversations attached to words Lila did not fully understand: settlement, custody, marital assets, valuation, primary residence, trust, shares. Whenever Lila entered a room, papers were turned over or gathered into folders. Marissa never seemed greedy. Not in front of Lila. She spoke of houses and accounts as if they were blankets, school books, medicine. "I need to make sure you're secure," she said. "Dad pays for everything," Lila answered once. Marissa's eyes softened with pity. "That is the problem, sweetheart. When one person controls everything, everyone else has to beg." Lila thought of herself outside the study door, asking him to come to her birthday. Beg. The word fit too well. In spring, the divorce was finalized. Lila did not attend court. She stayed home from school that day and sat in the living room of the main house, the house Marissa said they would be keeping for continuity. Rain streaked the windows. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Adrian. "I hope you're all right." She stared at it for a long time. Then she turned the phone face down. Marissa came home late afternoon. She looked exhausted, but when she saw Lila, she opened her arms. Lila went to her, and Marissa held her tightly. "It's over," Marissa whispered. Lila closed her eyes. She thought over should feel like relief. Instead, it felt like standing in a room after music had stopped, unsure whether she was supposed to clap. For a while, life after the divorce seemed gentler. People were kind. Too kind. Teachers spoke softly to her. Friends avoided mentioning fathers. Marissa took her shopping, let her repaint her room, ordered her favorite meals, and told her healing did not happen in a straight line. Adrian's presence thinned into messages, envelopes, and deliveries. He asked to see her. She said not yet. He sent books she had once mentioned wanting. She left them wrapped. He came to a school fundraiser and stood across the auditorium, not approaching, just watching. Marissa placed a protective hand on Lila's shoulder and guided her toward another group of parents before he could cross the room. "Not unless you want to," Marissa murmured. Lila did not know what she wanted. That was the problem. It was easier to want what Marissa wanted for her. Distance, peace, healing, control. Summer arrived, and the house changed. At first, the changes were small enough that Lila scolded herself for noticing. Marissa stopped coming to breakfast every morning. She said she had meetings with the financial advisor, appointments with the decorator, lunch with friends who had been so supportive through everything. Lila was glad people were supporting her. Then dinners became less regular. "I'll be back by 8, Marissa would say. At 9:30, she would text, "Don't wait up, darling." The first time, Lila ate leftovers alone and told herself Marissa deserved a life. She had spent years caring for everyone else. She had said that herself, laughing one afternoon as she tried on a new cream-colored coat in front of the mirror. "I forgot what it felt like to buy something just because I liked it." The coat was beautiful. So were the shoes, the earrings, the new car that arrived 2 weeks later, sleek and white with leather seats. Marissa looked happy behind the wheel, younger somehow, freer. Lila wanted to feel happy for her. Mostly she did. Sometimes, though, she caught herself watching the driveway the way she had watched it at 16, counting headlights that were not the right ones. She hated herself for that. Marissa was not like Adrian. Marissa had been there. Marissa had chosen her. Marissa had fought for her. If she was late now, it was because she was finally breathing. When school resumed, Lila tried to become normal again. Normal girls worried about exams, parties, university applications, whether their friends were excluding them from group chats. Lila worried about whether love changed once paperwork was signed. She never said that aloud. One October afternoon, she came home with a fever and a headache, so sharp light felt solid. The housekeeper called Marissa, who answered on speaker while Lila lay on the sofa. "Oh, poor thing," Marissa said. "I'm in the middle of something I can't leave." Give her tea and the medicine from the upstairs cabinet. Lila told herself it was fine. She was 16, almost 17. She did not need her mother to sit beside her like she was 5. But that evening, half asleep under a blanket, She remembered Marissa on the bathroom floor years ago, holding her hair back while she was sick. The memory felt like a country she no longer lived in. Marissa came home, near midnight, and kissed her forehead. "You're burning up," she said, concerned. Lila leaned into the touch. "Stay," she asked before pride could stop her. Marissa hesitated only a second. Just 1 second. But Lila felt it. "Of course," Marissa said. She sat beside her until Lila drifted off. In the morning, she was gone. After that, Lila began collecting seconds. The second before Marissa answered a question. The second before she smiled. The second before she said, "Of course, darling," as if reaching for a line she used to know by heart. There were still tender moments. That made the uncertainty worse. Marissa would appear in Lila's doorway with hot chocolate on a rainy night, then forget a parent meeting the next week. She would buy Lila a dress for a school dance, then leave halfway through taking photos because someone was waiting downstairs. She would call her my brave girl in front of friends, then sigh when Lila wanted to talk too long after they left. "You're still thinking about your father?" Marissa asked once, not unkindly, but with weariness she did not hide quickly enough. Lila froze. "No." Marissa rubbed her temples. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I just don't want you trapped in the past." The past. Lila wondered when her pain had become an old room everyone else wanted to close. Adrian kept trying in the only ways he seemed to know. On Christmas, he sent a handwritten card. Not typed. Not assistant perfect. His handwriting was angular and uneven. "Lila, I know I have failed you in ways I did not understand soon enough. I am not asking you to forgive me before you are ready. I only want you to know that I am here, and I will keep being here, even if you do not answer." Dad. There was no gift with it. That unsettled her more than any gift would have. She read it 3 times, then hid it beneath the lining of her jewelry drawer. When Marissa asked whether Adrian had sent anything, Lila said, "Just a card." Marissa's expression softened. "That must have been difficult." "I didn't answer." "You don't owe him anything." The sentence should have freed her. Instead, it made the hidden card feel heavier. By February, Marissa had begun going away for weekends. "Just with friends," she said. "Nothing serious." Lila had not asked if it was serious. She had not asked anything. She spent those weekends in the big house with staff who were polite enough to make loneliness formal. The driver took her to tutoring. The housekeeper asked what she wanted for dinner. The gardener nodded when she passed. No one was unkind. No one was hers. Sometimes she walked past Adrian's old study. Marissa had redecorated it after the settlement, removing the maps, awards, and dark furniture. Now it was a pale sitting room with cream, chairs no one sat in. The first time Lila saw it finished, she said, "It looks different." Marissa smiled. It needed new energy. Lila nodded. But later, she stood alone in the doorway and tried to remember where his desk had been, where he had looked at her and said, "I promise." Where, for one bright week, she had believed him. She still hated him for that night. She did. She repeated it to herself whenever doubt moved too close. He had promised. He had missed it. He had sent property deeds instead of himself. Those facts did not change. But other facts had begun to gather quietly around them. Together, they made a shape Lila did not want to see. Marissa kissed her cheek. "We'll have dinner tonight. 7. I promise." The word landed between them. Promise. Marissa did not seem to notice. All day, Lila told herself she was being ridiculous. Mothers could say promise. Anyone could. The word did not belong to one broken night. At 6:30, she changed into a simple black dress. At 6:45, she went downstairs. The dining room had been set for 2. Candles, plates, folded napkins, a small cake in the center. Not extravagant. Better that way. At 7, Marissa had not come down. At 7:15, Lila checked her phone. Nothing. At 7:30, she sat at the table. At 8, the candles had burned unevenly. At 8:20, a message arrived. "I am so sorry, darling. Something came up and I can't get away. Please eat without me. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. Love you." Lila read it once. Then again. Something came up. The house was silent around her. For a moment, she felt nothing. Not sadness, not anger, not surprise. Only a strange, cold recognition, like hearing a song from childhood in a place it did not belong. She looked across the table at the empty chair. It was not the same chair from last year. Not the same room. Not the same parent. not the same kind of absence. But her body did not know the difference. Her throat tightened. She pushed the feeling down hard. No, this was not the same. Marissa was tired. Marissa had been through so much. Marissa had chosen her when no one else had. Marissa had stayed through fevers and school nights and whispered fears. Marissa was allowed to be late, allowed to have a life, allowed to make mistakes. She was not like Adrian. Lila repeated that until it almost sounded true. The housekeeper appeared at the door with a hesitant expression. "Miss Lila? Mrs. Harrow asked me to bring this." It was another box. For one wild second, Lila wanted to laugh. The wrapping was perfect. Silver paper, white ribbon, a card in Marissa's looping handwriting. "To my brave girl. Always." Inside was a necklace, more expensive than the bracelet from that morning. Diamonds again, small enough to be tasteful, bright enough to be unmistakable. Beautiful, generous, cold. Lila touched it with one finger and felt something inside her pull away. Her phone lit up again. For a second she thought it was Marissa. It was Adrian. "I know you may not want to hear from me today. I understand. But if tonight feels lonely, I hope you know you don't have to sit with that alone. I'm here." Lila stopped breathing. No expectations. Just love. She waited for anger to come. She wanted it. Anger was easier. Anger had kept her upright for a year. But it did not come the way it used to. Instead, she saw him outside the lake house, looking up at a window where she had hidden. She saw his shadow beneath her bedroom door the night she turned 16. She saw the watch left outside because he had not known how to enter. She heard his voice through the study door. "I was trying to secure something for her. Her future. Her childhood." The two halves of a love no one had translated in time. Lila did not answer the message. Not yet. She turned the phone over, then turned it back again. In the dining room, the little cake waited. The necklace lay open in its box. The chair across from her remained empty. Slowly, she leaned forward and blew out the candles by herself. Smoke curled upward. For the first time, she did not make a wish. She sat in the quiet and let one forbidden thought rise, small and frightened, from the place where she had buried all the others. If Marissa loved her, why did this feel so familiar? The thought hurt so badly that she almost pushed it away. Almost. Upstairs, in her room, Lila placed Marissa's necklace on the vanity without trying it on. Then she opened the jewelry drawer and took out the 2 cards from Adrian. She did not forgive him. Not in that moment. She did not understand him either. Understanding was too large, too dangerous, too close to admitting that the story she had survived on might not be the whole story. But she read the cards again. The house remained silent. Somewhere far away, her mother was living the life she had won. Somewhere else, her father was waiting for a reply he might never receive. And Lila, 17 years old, stood between the 2 absences, holding paper instead of diamonds, feeling for the first time that love could be real and still fail you, false and still comfort you, present and still leave before dessert. She put the cards back carefully. Then she sat on the edge of her bed in the dark, listening for a door that did not open, and tried to convince herself that nothing had changed.